Hello Orchid friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching my video, my channel is all about orchids. From what orchids I have, how I grow them, my thoughts on certain orchid topics, to what orchids in my collection are blooming, etc. So if you want to follow along my orchid hobby adventure, please consider subscribing to my channel and turn on the notification. Today in this video, I want to give you an update on this purple martin, Phalaenopsis purple martin. Recently, I did a video on this purple martin because it produced 2 flowers spiked and it's first blooming under my care. I've had this orchid since it was a seedling, and after almost 2 years of caring for it, it's finally blooming for the very first time with 2 spikes. So I made that video to share with all of you, and this is a video update for this orchid because of its sequential blooming characteristics. This is the last 3 flowers for the main spike, and after all those flowers were gone, it was bare. The flower spike was bare for a little bit, and then pretty soon I started to see the tip of it start to grow further, and then all of a sudden it was developing a bud. So I was very happy about it, and pretty soon, I think it was within 2 weeks, the flower started to show the purple color through the bud, even though it wasn't quite opening yet, and gradually it was opening, so I was really happy. So I took a bunch of photos of this orchid, and I find orchid buds opening, like the when they were opening, I think they look very much like a tiny little spaceship. For those of you who may be new to the orchid hobby and you just happen to stumble upon my video, this particular orchid, this particular cross, has, I think, Violacea indigo in its parentage. It's a species. Violacea is a species, and it's a sequential bloomer. So this orchid also inherited the sequential blooming characteristic. And what that means is that if the flower spike is green, don't ever cut it even though there is no more flower, because with the right condition and care and season, the flower spike will continue to grow further, grow longer, and will produce more flower buds and flower for you. So don't ever cut off the spike just because there is no flower at the time. You would only want to cut flower spikes of these sequential bloomers when the flower spike is completely dead. So if you can see here, the first flower spike on the left here was yellowing at the time of the photo. So I waited until it was completely dry, and then I cut it off. For regular orchids, it's the same thing. If the flower spikes are green, I typically don't cut them, because my belief is that there is still nutrients and water, sap, that can be recycled into the main plant itself. So if you cut the spike early, you are probably just taking away some of the nutrients that could be recycled otherwise. Another really interesting thing that I observed about the flower is that it has a little bit of that shimmering effect. It has that little sparkling going on the flower sepals and petals in sunlight. I think you can probably see it from the photos here. You know, there are some sparkling going on. So I really like that. Obviously, as time goes on, as the flower gets older, the colors start to fade a little bit, you know, from darker purple-ish blue to a lighter shade of purple. So I think it eventually become violet, from indigo to violet. But the lip itself is still pretty purple, so I find that very cute. It's currently potted in semi-hydro, and this orchid really likes it. It has many roots in the reservoir already, so I really don't have to worry about watering this orchid until there is no more water in the reservoir, and that cycle typically takes about 2 weeks. I do give it fertilizer from time to time, and each time I fertilize this orchid, I only use quarter strength, so a quarter of the recommended dosage. I'd rather fertilize, weekly versus giving a strong fertilizing session each time, because I don't want to burn the roots. This orchid so far, it's first blooming, but I really think that this orchid, I need to figure out if this orchid is happy. I know it's blooming, it could be happy, but the top 2 leaves, the newest leaves, are still smaller than the older leaves, so I need to figure that out too. But anyway, overall I'm happy, and also for your convenience, I'm going to include the footage from the last video I did on this orchid, so you don't have to go search within my channel, and here it is. When I was making this video, I had a big smile on my face, because there's nothing more rewarding than growing an orchid from a seedling size young plant to a mature plant, and eventually it blooms for you. And this is what this plant is giving me. Lovely first blooms with 2 spikes, and each spike has at least 3 buds. I think this spike that you're seeing has 3 buds, and then the other one, this one, is at least 4 buds. I bought this plant, I think, toward the end of 2016, and after, about a year and a half, it's finally in bloom. It's currently in semi-hydro, and one of the roots actually has come out through one of the drainage holes and then grow along the edge of the cup, because I use an outer cup normally, but I took the outer cup off because I want to show you the root system inside the media, but typically that root just kind of grows along the edge of the cup. Overall, I think this orchid is doing fine, but as you can see though, the newer leaves are actually smaller, so I'm still trying to determine if there is any care that I can provide differently so that next blooming cycle the leaves will grow larger and potentially give me more blooms. But every other week, I would give it fertilizer of about quarter strength, and then every other watering, I would only use reverse osmosis water to make sure that I provide an opportunity to flush away some of the salt buildup from the fertilizer, etc. Overall, I think it's a very nice plant. Purple Martin has Violacea in its parentage, so the flower shape overall has a very similar resemblance of Violacea. And to me, this light purple is just super adorable. And also its lip, look at its lip. It's kind of round, it's very thick, very substantial, and it has a very dark purple. And as you know, there is no true blue color in orchid world, so purple or indigo is as close to blue color, the true blue color, as you can get. And Purple Martin is just one of those that has really really beautiful blue that's as close to the real blue as you'll get. And this orchid is indeed fragrant, even though it's not a super strong fragrant, but if you put your nose close enough to the flowers, you will definitely be able to smell its fragrance. And it's most fragrant for me in my environment in the afternoon, not so much in the evening, but in the afternoon. And I do provide this orchid with northern facing window light, and I do use shade the blinds from my window, because in summertime, even though it's north facing, in the afternoon time I still get a little bit of northwest direct light into the window, so I want to avoid any kind of burn on the leaf. And also in summertime, one thing to make sure that you pay closer attention to is the temperature. Summertime, if it gets too hot, potentially it would make your flower last shorter, meaning that they will fade away quicker. So you might want to make sure that if your orchids are grown indoors, you want to make sure that your temperature is somewhat below a threshold. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!